Okay, my name is Steve Killing, and I was in the design office at CNC from 72 to 79, so that was straight out of university for me. So that was, in that period, there were 5 or 6 maybe in the design office. So it's pretty phenomenal. For one, it was a pretty phenomenal opportunity for me. So I'm fresh out of university, excited young engineer, but not a lot of yacht design experience, just the desire to be there. So the learning of yacht design was all on the job for me. At that point, Rob Mazza was away getting his master's degree, and they needed somebody to fill in for the summer. But that summer job actually lasted 8 years for me. It was phenomenal. And the office was small enough that you got involved in all parts of the process. So initially I was doing structural things because I was an engineer, an inexperienced engineer. But then because of the size of the office, you end up doing a little bit of work on lines drawings, then you do some ballast calculations, then you start working with the customers. And most of my work was actually with the custom shop, not with the production shop. So this is the days of the CNC 43, CNC 60, 61, Evergreen, the 1-ton project. But phenomenal learning experience for me, and everybody working more hours than you get paid for. Just great enthusiasm in the whole office. Even today, when you look on the used boat market, it's the CNC 27s, 30s, 35s that still stand out. And I think the thing is the quality of construction, which you've probably heard a lot about, that the boats still are lasting. And even the stability of those early boats, which is pretty high stability, so they're very comfortable as a cruising boat. As time went on through the IOR rule, the IOR rule promoted low stability from a racing standpoint, which isn't conducive to great cruising. So you have a bunch of boats going through those years, which are less stable. But still, I think the thing that carries on, and even the current CNC yachts that are being produced in the States, their whole focus is let's make that the top of the line as far as quality goes, as far as the market you're shooting for. So I think they've recognized that as well, that the quality of the whole thing was important. I think the other thing that was stressed during that time period was this racing side of CNC yachts, which was both, it's kind of interesting because the racing side is something that all these young, keen designers were really enthusiastic about, but it was also a great marketing ploy, and that you sort of, as you buy a CNC yacht, you dream about you being the racing guy that's going to win these races in Florida, but in fact you never go there. So it's sort of adding another part to the purchasing dream. I've thanked George Cuthbertson many times for letting me get started in this industry, because it was really him taking a chance on this totally inexperienced young guy that got me into this dream profession of yacht design. So a lot of, the basics of yacht design and naval architecture all came from CNC. So I'm a civil engineer by training, not a naval architect. All the development of tank testing that I got involved in was again because of CNC. We actually didn't have any good tank testing programs in Canada when we were there and about to do the Canada's Cup program. So I actually spent a year up in Ottawa with CNC's blessing working on this tank testing process. And I've had no other formal training in naval architecture other than working at the design office at CNC. So it is the reason, it's totally the reason that I'm still in this business. Well, so the easy one for me at the top of the list is Evergreen. Very controversial boat, but I think phenomenal boat. I'm still very proud of that boat. So I was the project manager of the boat and actually sailed on the boat as the foredeck man. So the nice thing about that project is, so Don Green actually gave pretty total freedom to the design office to create a boat, and as long as everything we did made it faster, we could do it. So it was a pretty open book. That was the IOR Mark III rule at the time, and there were some loopholes in it that we exploited. I think if I were doing that boat again now, assuming you were doing it to the same rule, I think we could do a slightly better job, but the concept would still be the same. It would still be a light, very beamy boat. I love the deck layout we did on that, very shallow, open transom. I think structurally I could do a better job now, so we would win more quickly. But I have very good memories of that boat. The other production boat, the 38 and the 40, in particular the 40 actually, as far as being a general use, good cruiser racer, and aesthetically very, very pleasing. So I would pick that boat. What I would call the vintage boats, the 27, 30, and 35, so they were actually already done before I arrived at CNC. So I can't pick one of those as my favorite for having been involved there at the time. Although I would say from the general public standpoint, it's those three boats, 27, 30, and 35, that are still the big sellers and in great demand. Because now it makes a lot of sense to spend a fair bit of money fixing up one of those rather than buying a new one, because you can fix it up and make it exactly what you want and end up with a superb boat at the end rather than buying something new that's maybe not quite what you want. And they're lasting very well. They're very good. Exactly, they don't fall apart. Yeah. So I think early on in the 70s, so you could design and build anything and you would sell out. It was pretty phenomenal. We used to have there was a 3-year turnaround on every model, so we'd redesign the 27 3 years later. And we were just, it turns out now we were just filling up this pipeline with all these boats because they weren't disappearing at the other end. It's not like wooden boats, which actually do disappear at the other end. Yeah, so there's still a lot of boats that are, well, I guess they're now 30 and 40 years old that people are still sailing. It's pretty tough. We were pretty ideal time. I think innovating pretty early in the fiberglass world was pretty key to the whole thing. Now, so still being in the industry, if you actually want to be in that market, in particular CNC was in the racing market as well as the cruising market. The racing market is incredibly fickle. If you're winning, you're on top, you're okay, and you sell boats. If you're number 2 or number 3, yeah, you're not there. So that is much more difficult to do now. And I actually don't know for sure, but I suspect at the end of CNC's life, that was part of what they were trying to maintain, but was very difficult to do, was keep the racing image up there, which is getting more and more difficult to do, but still sell in the racer cruiser market. So yeah, it'd be pretty tough to do now, I think. And the market itself is much smaller because we've filled up a lot of it with these boats that aren't disappearing. So yeah, pretty tough to do. We were pretty lucky. I think just a great big thanks to Big George, and that's a personal thanks. I mean, it's my whole career because of George, and that's huge. And the thing that keeps me excited about the whole industry is the variety. So you're always dealing with different kinds of boats, different people. I slid from sailboats. I do canoes and kayaks and powerboats now as well, wooden powerboats. And none of that would have happened without Big George. He's been very supportive all the way along. He's still very supportive of me, and I'm supportive of him when I can be. But yeah, big thanks to him.